This contest is all about fans. This contest is all about fans who love Star Trek being involved in this world in a really unique way with the blessing of CBS, which is such a big deal. I'm a Star Trek fan at heart and a general science fiction fan. It has come to my attention that some people who are participating in the contest, either as writers or reviewers, have some questions for me. I think this is a tremendous opportunity for me to interact with some of you guys and answer those questions. So I have a couple of minutes today, and I thought that I would do that. The first question comes from Moon Unit. Moon Unit says, "Hey Will, so you've been an actor, a writer, a comedian, a celebrity, a DJ. Right now, at this point in your life, which professional element do you most closely identify with? Time being finite, if you could only really throw your energy into one of these career paths in the future, which one would you choose, and why?" Well, Moon Unit, I have wanted to be a DJ my entire life. Since I was a little kid listening to Joe Frank and Uncle Joe Benson and Dr. Demento and Rodney Bingenheimer, I have wanted to have a radio show. But I wouldn't want to do that as a primary career. If I could only do one thing as a primary career, I would continue to write. I can make up any world I want. I don't have to worry about budgets. I don't have to worry about casting. I don't have to worry about getting permission from studios. All I have to do is sit down with an idea and then do my very best to impart that idea to you, the reader, in such a way that it earns the time you will spend with my book. Incidentally, I kind of think this is what I'm going to end up doing with my life. The next question comes from Avenger 1212. "I was wondering if, after the director calls cut, do you all keep in touch?" This is something that's actually very close to my heart. When we worked on Next Generation, I was a kid and they were adults. And I couldn't relate to them as well as I wanted to. I spend a lot of time in my book, Just a Geek, which makes a lovely gift, kind of going over this angst within me, because I felt like I was too young to really appreciate how cool they were. And by the time I was old enough to kind of relate to them as an adult, we had all kind of gone our separate ways. A lot of us encounter each other a couple of times a year at Star Trek conventions, and every single time we do, it's like this wonderful family reunion, sitting together backstage, talking about our kids and talking about our lives and interacting together. Had I been older, I'm sure I would have been going with them to Nick Adele's on Friday nights, and I'm sure I would have been going with them to parties at their houses like they all did. But as it turned out, you know, I was a teenager, so I was playing Warhammer and Dungeons & Dragons on the weekends when they were all hanging out. The next question comes from Shranman. "How did you avoid the child star trap, and do you think being part of Star Trek might have helped you stay on the semi-straight and narrow?" I appreciate the semi qualifier there because I'm just not that square. Working on Star Trek absolutely played a role in how I avoided the common pitfalls that claimed the careers and in some cases lives of many of my fellow child actors. But it's not specifically because of Star Trek, it's because of the people I worked with, and it's because I was really a nerd. My stand-in, Guy Vardaman, was a very, very good friend of mine, and Guy invited me to his house all the time to take my Macintosh, that we would Apple talk to his Macintosh, and then spend an entire weekend playing Net Trek and Spaceward Ho. While all of my fellow child actors were out going to clubs that they weren't old enough to get into and running away from the paparazzi and getting in all kinds of trouble with the law and really being exposed to things that children are not emotionally prepared to deal with, I was just being a nerd. The fact that Star Trek kind of supported my nerdiness was just sort of a bonus for me. The next question comes from R. Sepola, who writes, "Have you had the chance to read any of the round 2 writers who took up your challenge to include some West dialogue, mainly my own?" You mean like this? "I've reprogrammed my tricorder to create a sublight velocity reference frame shift that alters the temporal direction of the tachyon's world line. Something is in a high orbit on the other side of the portal. Sir, this field vacuum seems to be collapsing." Awesome.